This is a public service announcement.
We can't hear you.
This is a public service announcement.
Yeah, I seen that. I seen that. Happy February, people, and welcome to another episode of Stay on Topic. Today it is February 27th, though it might not come out on February 27th, but if it does, I get points for accuracy. Ruffle warning. If your feathers get ruffled by this video, I'm okay with that. So let's start at the beginning. Where did Black history start in America? How did Black people get here? Why are we here? All that good stuff. Everybody knows, it's not a secret. American slavery. Not the most fun thing to talk about, but what you'll probably notice, and what I've noticed, is that's a subject that people don't really touch as much anymore. You don't see it in the media as much. It gets downplayed a lot. It doesn't really get talked about in schools and education as much. And that really bothers me because it's a huge, substantial part of American history and how America got started. Most reports you'll see basically agree that the first instance of slavery in America was early 1600s, 1619 is what I see the most. To put in perspective how long ago that was the year that Betty White graduated from high school. Betty, we love you, I'm sorry. Slavery in America went on for over 200 years. And just to put in perspective how long that was in American history, 200 years has not even passed since slavery was abolished and deemed illegal. That's pretty trippy when you think about it. That's how much of history that Black people were slaves here. As I touched on earlier, slavery is slowly being kind of toned down and written out of kind of the mainstream, so to speak. Education and classrooms are kind of going over all the nitty-gritty details, so to downplay how much that Black people had to go through at the start of this country. And I feel like the reason that's happening is due to one thing primarily: white guilt. We'll briefly touch on white guilt a little bit more further on in the video. So for 200 years, over 200 years in America, Black people were enslaved, humiliated, emasculated, mutilated, raped, just really destroyed physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, in every way, shape, and form that you can imagine. It's so easy to have an opinion about slavery and what my ancestors and many others' ancestors went through all those years ago, but it's impossible to even think about or even recreate, through film or whatever it may be, what was actually going through. Just seeing those people being treated so horribly and being just, I don't even have a word for it. It's just being brutalized every single day of their lives, and being expected to deal with that on a daily basis is something that I don't think any of us will ever fully be able to wrap our minds around. Slavery did not become nationally prohibited until 1865. So you would think that after 200 years, maybe what happened is these white people with British roots woke up one day and they thought to themselves, we've been really awful to these Black people just because they're a different color and they spoke a different language. They're from a different place in the world than us. Maybe we should, stop chaining them up and making them work for free and just being awful to them. Maybe we should treat them with love and respect because they're human beings just like us. It didn't happen like that. Let me tell you something. White people were so conflicted about freeing the Black people and ending slavery. These people went to war. I'm serious. These people went to war. The country, the entire country, the Civil War happened because half of the country was that against giving up slavery and saying, Black people, you can be free. They said, I'd rather kill some other white people than let these black people have a life. I'm serious. Crazy. 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 And that even relates to today in 2019. Think about this is how I kind of think about everything right now. Here we are in 2019, right? Race relations are still very tensiony. I'm like 90% sure that's not a word. But think about the irony. The irony, though. Less than 200 years ago, white people felt so strongly about speaking up about the rights black people should not have that they went to war and killed each other. They killed relatives and friends and family over slavery. That's how strongly they felt about black people staying in chains. But here we are in 2019, black people are not in chains, but they are still being treated pretty badly. Not nearly as good as other white people, and they don't want to really talk about that. It's crazy the difference in that how vocal you want to be. Keep the black people in chains? We need to fight. We need to talk about this because this is a problem. Black people want more rights. Black people want to be treated like humans and not be shot because they're black. I don't have much to say to that, but just don't forget that all lives matter. Oh, y'all still want to talk about black on black crime? So slavery ends. Black people are not officially slaves anymore, but they are still treated like it because it's not like racism disappeared after slavery disappeared. It just means, man, I really wish you were in chains right now while I lynch you and kill you and rape you and your entire family, but you're not. So now I have to do those things while you're not enchained and you don't have law enforcement on your side and you don't have the law in general on your side. So yeah, Jim Crow happened and all kinds of still terrible things in American history. Black America stands strong throughout all of the brutality and the mistreatment. And eventually comes the civil rights era. This is in the night. We're in the 1900s now, right? That's not that long ago. That's less than 100 years ago. Civil rights era comes, and this is when it becomes very prevalent for black people or select black people and black groups to stand up to the white people that have been keeping them down. That's been giving them the biggest possible disadvantages in the country for all of our existence, Black America's existence, and standing up for what they believe in and their rights. Now it was pretty obvious to see that all of the names that were involved in the civil rights movement were not all on the same page, which I've seen a lot of criticism of that, whether it's Marcus Garvey or Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, some of the big names. A lot of them were there was a lot of criticism about how they all weren't on the same page. They all wanted something different from America. Me personally, I found it very refreshing, and I felt like that was extremely helpful to Black America as a whole, and it did move us forward quite a bit in America and getting us more respect, giving us more opportunities, and all the sacrifices that they made and lost their lives for. And when I say lost their lives, I don't mean necessarily that they intentionally sacrificed themselves. As you know, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King were assassinated. But the fact that that is why they were assassinated is kind of what I mean. Maybe that class was good?
Yeah, it was good.
That's good. So we have these great black minds and these great black groups, the Black Panthers, we have the Black Muslims, all these differing groups that are operating towards or operating in different ways, but they're all operating towards the same goal, and that's to have equal rights for black people. Not special rights, not not anything of that nature more than everybody else, but just to be respected, to feel like we belong here. And that did move forward. As we compared to the 60s and we're looking at now, black people, we have so many more opportunities because of the things that these amazing people, these amazing groups did. And I will, and everyone should be eternally grateful for the changes that they caused. Um, in some ways, opening the minds of the white people that weren't open to being fair and being rational with how black people are treated, and in other cases, being more extreme and actually scaring white people to an extent. Getting an emotional response to get people to change their ways wasn't always being nice to them. These white people being afraid of the Black Panthers or the Muslims is, that caused changes too. But keep in mind, through all these times, all of these struggles, these white people that are basically like grandkids of a lot of the people that fought in the Civil War and whatnot, they're still carrying on their grandparents and great grandparents' legacy. No, racism doesn't disappear. We still have white people, as you've probably seen in pictures and whatnot, shooting high pressure water hoses at protesters, brutally beating protesters, straight up bombing a church and killing black children. All kinds of brutal things, lynchings everywhere that they're not getting in trouble for. Most famously, Emmett Till, which is a really rough subject to think about and even read over. All of these things are still happening. White people are still doing their absolute best to keep black people from moving any further in this country that they brought us to. And to transition into the modern period, just thinking about that, we're talking about the civil rights movement, which is in the mid 1900s, right? Here we are in basically kind of the early 2000s. We're in 2019. That was less than 100 years ago, right? So these white people that you see in these pictures that are like spraying protesters and shooting them, getting away with killing them because a lot of these things never even get reported, or these white people don't get punished or incarcerated for these terrible things that they did to black people. A lot of these people are still alive, right? There's a lot of people in the world that are over 100 years old, and all of these things happened less than 100 years ago. It's crazy. Crazy. And now we've gotten to a point where we can have a black president. We had a black president for 8 years. We have black people that are billionaires, multiple black people that are millionaires. That's a different subject in itself as far as how the difference between black people and white people and how they get their money. That's a completely different issue on its own. I might address later. But we've come a really, really long way. And the thing is, these white people, this racism, I do want this media idea that racism has disappeared. I want that to just kind of go away because we know that's not true. These evil white people from the civil rights era, still alive, and they reproduced. So when you see these things on TV, when you see a white cop shot a black kid, a defenseless black kid, and got off because he said he was scared. When you see a white judge give a black person a much harder sentence for the same thing that a white person did, but the white person got off with a much lesser sentence or something not nearly as serious, basically a slap on the wrist. Who do you think raised those people? What do you think is being passed down? Where do you think their values are coming from? What do you think their values are? And these are all the same people that want slavery to be written out of our kids' textbooks. These are the same people that don't want the book To Kill a Mockingbird to be read in classrooms. That's actually been banned in classrooms because it touches on racism a lot. And guess why that is? It's white guilt. So from the perspective of 2019 America, do I think that racism will ever die? No. I look at it this way. As a result of us having a black president for 8 years, to get revenge, angry white people went out and voted for a man that has no reason to be in office. He has no political background, no experience in politics whatsoever. And they voted for him basically because he's okay with being openly racist. And he makes them feel like they can be too. We live in a world where the United States president can get away with sexually assaulting people, scamming people with failed businesses like Trump University, calling black people, black athletes, sons of bitches, and what was that other thing he did? Oh yeah, there was this no, not a big thing or anything. There was this white nationalist movement. There was these white people that were basically parading around, with their angry tiki blowtorches, and chanting like this other thing. It's called the KKK. No big thing in history. Just these white people that killed black people in masks like they were superheroes. But yeah, this was in modern times. They're going around saying basically that white lives matter more than other people, and the president's response to this was they are very fine people. So yeah, wow. Yeah, that is the world that we live in, and that is the expectations apparently of our presidency. And he still has a very strong support group. So that's where we're at with racism right now. Wrapping this video up, all in all, I hope I said something that made you think a little differently, something that made your brain get stimulated, want to look deeper into these things, kind of the details, or even want to make a difference a bit more. I think that black people in America, we've come in an amazingly long way, starting from the 1600s all the way till now. I feel like the sky is not the limit. We can continue to get past that, because the sky was the limit a long time ago, hundreds of years ago. Like in the early 1900s, when black people said the sky is the limit, that meant just having a really good job. That was it. It didn't mean becoming the president of the United States. That didn't mean becoming a billionaire. That didn't mean any of those things. None of those things were in the realm of possibility. So it's definitely a great thing, but we got a lot of work to do in our society. And I think that we'll continue to move forward. There's never going to be an end, in my opinion, to the obstacles that we're going to face. We're always going to have more obstacles than others. But I feel like we're always going to be resistant, and we're always going to meet those challenges with the willpower of our own that we've had to have for years and years and years and years. And that's going to continue until forever, probably. We're never going to lose that willpower. Leave a comment on what you think that the future holds in store for Black America, how far we've come, what you think about where we are now. Or on the opposite side, just let me know if you think I'm crazy. When I release videos, I'll start doing song recommendations. I always give at least one song that, if you've never heard it, I would recommend listening to it because I'm feeling it this week or whatever the matter may be. My song recommendation for this video is Holy Ghost. It doesn't mean it has anything to do necessarily with the video, but I'm feeling that track right now. Holy Ghost by A$AP Rocky. Go check it out on iTunes. That's it for me for today. I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the little like button down there. Subscribe if you're feeling super generous. I appreciate you generous people. And I'll catch y'all next month sometime.
Need love, I need love, I need